Dr. Cynthia Shelby-Lane to the stage. Is this a good mic? Yes. It was December 31st, 1979, New Year's Eve, out with the old and in with the new. I had just got back home to Detroit after leaving Houston and finishing my residency as a doctor. I was ready to start my new career as an emergency physician at Detroit Receiving Hospital. So there I was on New Year's Eve with my family, watching television and waiting for the crystal ball to fall in Times Square. I was also unpacking umpteen boxes from my life in Houston when I ran across a job application for a position I had wanted ever since I was a little girl. And this job position had nothing to do with being a doctor, nothing at all. So I looked at the job application, and it looked like I was about to miss the deadline, because there was, tucked in a pillowcase, which was my usual filing system, but when I looked at the application, it looked like I had waited to the very last minute. That's because I'm a procrastinator. When I started reading the fine print, it looks like I had actually waited to the very last minute. It said the application is due 11:59, December 31st. Oh my God. So I sat down at the kitchen table and I started writing. On the other hand, I knew it was a handwritten application, so it couldn't be just my usual doctor's writing because they had to be able to read it. So I sat down and I started writing, and it was 8:05 p.m. It looked like I had only less than 4 hours to complete the application. So I started writing, and then when I finished, it was 11:07 p.m. Exactly. It looked like I had at least 53 minutes to make it to the post office in downtown Detroit, because that was the only post office that was open on New Year's Eve. It was in Detroit. So normally it's like a 15-minute drive. When I ran outside, it was snowing everywhere like crazy. Look, I'm a bad driver on a good day. I'm just saying, I'm glad to be alive. When I ran into the post office, I looked at the clock, and I had less than 10 minutes to get that postmark stamped December 31st. And there was a line. I'm like, oh God, on New Year's Eve, what's going on? And look, I got in line behind 10 people. And that's when I started begging. I started begging everybody just to let me through. And nobody was letting me through because they had their own deadlines, like taxes and IRS. So one lady at the front of the line heard me begging, and she said, come on up here, honey, get in front of me. So I ran to the front. I got up to the postal clerk, and I looked at her, and I started talking in slow motion because I had less than 2 minutes to get this thing stamped. I looked at her and I said, can you please postmark this before midnight? And she snatched the envelope out of my hand and stamped it, 11:59, December 31st. That's right, I made it. So I ran back to the car, and I got there, and I just sat there, and I started talking to myself. Talking. It was cold as hell outside, but I was hot and sweaty. And that's when I thought to myself, what just happened? And then it hit me. I had just applied to be a United States astronaut. That's right, because who doesn't want to explore the universe? And who doesn't want to help humanity? And what woman doesn't want to be weightless? And look, I knew there were no black female astronauts at that time because I had looked it up. And I knew that the right stuff, that was just white male jet pilots. And this what ran across my mind, I'm like, I could possibly be the first black female astronaut. And that was before Mae Jemison and Yvonne Kogel and Jeanette Epps and Joan Higginbotham and 7 astronauts so far. And so I said, there's no way that I could possibly break that glass ceiling. So I went back to my work as an emergency physician. And at that time, Detroit was known as the murder capital of the entire universe. So I was like overwhelmed by death and dying and critically ill patients and heart attacks and gunshot victims. And I kept wondering, did they get my application? I mean, every moment I was on pins and needles. And then one day while I was at work in the emergency room, my staff said, Dr. Lane, line 3. So I answered it, and the person said, and I said, hello, who is this? And they said, this is NASA. NASA? They said, yes. Dr. Lane, you've been selected to come to Johnson Space Center for an interview to be an astronaut. Your interview is 1 week long. Dr. Lane, are you still there? They said, I said, yes, I'll be there. And he said, congratulations and good luck, and thank you for your application to the United States Space Program. That's when I started thinking, that's when I felt the weight of gravity. My mouth fell open. I'm like, I can't go. I just started this new job. I can't leave a new job for an interview for another job. So I called my boss, and I explained the news to him, and I said, I really don't have to go if you don't want me to. I just don't have to go. And he talked to me like he talked to all the other doctors. He said, shut up and wake up. You're going, we can handle this. That's it. So, and that's when I finally told my family, I finally told my family about my amazing idea to be an astronaut. Let's just say I left anyway. Exactly 1 week later, I landed in Houston on a hot, muggy Sunday afternoon, and I was on my way to Johnson Space Center for the interview. Trust me, I had no idea what was about to happen. When I got to my housing unit at Johnson Space Center, there was a note on the bed, and it said, Dear astronaut applicant. Me? They said, Dear astronaut applicant, you're invited to a reception. It was actually a government debriefing tonight, 7 p.m. So when I got myself together, I arrived at the reception, and I'm telling you, this kind of blew my mind. I walked in, and I met some of the best astronauts of our time, past and present. There was Buzz Aldrin, there was John Young, both Apollo astronauts, and basically I was just looking for a black astronaut because I heard they existed, rumor had it. And that's when I saw Frederick Gregory and Charlie Bolden, both black astronauts. They didn't have the right stuff, they had the real stuff. They were black pilots. They said, hey girl, and I saluted them. I also met all 20 U.S. Astronaut candidates at that time, all 20 of us. They were actually my competition. They were bright and talented. And that's when NASA gave us our first homework assignment. They said, you have to write an essay. The essay is why I want to be an astronaut. Okay? And you're going to have it by tomorrow morning, so get to writing and get a good night's sleep. I'm like, what's going on? I already wrote this. So I started writing why I want to be an astronaut. I want to help humanity in outer space. I want to do research. I want to get blasted off. Well, I didn't really say that, but that's what I knew. It took me all night long to write this 5th grade writing assignment. And I knew I was smarter than the 5th grader. Well, I stayed up all night until it was finished. Come Monday morning, I showed up on time all groggy and sleepy, and I turned in that assignment. And let me tell you, that's when the test started, because NASA will test you to the max. At that point, they said, and let me tell you, this was like the interview process from hell. Okay, it was 5 days, 44 hours, and a colonoscopy. Yeah, so I kind of freaked out a little bit. And then they gave us our first assignment. It was a big orange Gatorade-sized jug that we had to carry around NASA for 24 hours for a urine specimen, checking for drugs and any other disease you might have. The next assignment was a 5-hour psychological evaluation. 5 hours. That's right. And I knew from the battery of questions that they were just trying to find out if I was crazy. So they asked you questions like, are you a team player? I'm like, yes, I am. And do you what are your chances of being an astronaut? What do you think they are? I'm like, I don't know, 99%, maybe 100%. And so I told them anything I thought that they wanted to hear. And at the end of the psychological evaluation, I actually thought I was crazy. And then there's a physical endurance test. They put you on a treadmill. And you're hooked up to wires, you're hooked up to monitors, and there's this big team of people, like 15 or 20 people, standing along, cheering you on, but they're keeping that treadmill going faster and faster, and it's going on the incline. And you better keep up. Look, my heart rate skyrocketed to 180, and then I thought I was going to die. I was sweating like a pig. The only way to get off this treadmill, was to put your thumb up 30 seconds before you thought you were going to die. I passed, yeah. All right, and then there's the survival skills. It's called the rescue ball. They explained to me that the rescue ball is only used in the event that you get ejected back into the ocean. Don't worry. So they put you into this plastic round rubber ball. You zip yourself in. They zip you on the outside. So you're zipped in. You can't get out. And you're there for 30 minutes. And all the while, I could hear them saying, "Are you okay?" I was just worried that they were going to leave me and go to lunch or something like that. They finally got me out, and I passed again. At the very end, NASA said, "Dr. Lane, you know that things could blow up." I said, "NASA, I'm from Detroit. Stuff blows up all the time." So the final day is Friday night, it's another dinner, and that's when we get to meet the head of NASA. All 20 of us gather around for a dinner, which I call the Last Supper, and that's when you find out if you made the cut. Let me tell you, they tell you, you're not all going to make it. You're not going to make it, and you'll know because the head of NASA will call you if you're a winner, and if you're a loser, somebody else in this room is going to call you. So I was worried about memorizing a voice that may or may not call me. Well, that was over with. That was the week at NASA. I got back on a plane, came back home to Detroit, and I started my life again as a doctor in the emergency room at Detroit Receiving Hospital. And I was still wondering, did I make the cut? I was just so exhausted and excited at the same time, still on pins and needles. And then one day, just like that first call, my staff said, "Dr. Lane, NASA is on the line." I said, "Hello?" He said, "Is this Dr. Lane?" I said, "Yes." "You didn't make it. I'm sorry." And I said, Why? Can you tell me just why? Can you just tell me why? He said, we're not allowed to tell you why. We just can't tell you. I said, "Well, please. I was begging like I was at the post office. Please tell me why." And he said, okay, you have headaches. You said you have migraine headaches. I'm like, no. I don't have headaches anymore. I never saw a neurologist. I don't have headaches. He said, "I'm so sorry, but you may want to get that off your medical record and reapply." I said, "You mean I can reapply?" He said, "Yes, you can. And then he hung up. and I started crying like a baby, just crying. My staff couldn't even console me. All I could think was, I'm just going to be a doctor. So I took his advice. I went to three neurologists, not one, not two, but three neurologists, and I find even the head of the FAA in Chicago. And then I finally got clearance from a neurologist at Wayne State University. So I kept applying. I kept applying. Every time NASA had a selection for astronauts, I applied. I learned how to fly a Cessna plane. I ran 10K races. I even started a young astronaut program at Marygrove College to teach black kids how to make airplanes. I went to every space conference in the country, and I went to Kennedy Space Center for every launch that I could, even those that were scrubbed. And then one night, one cold January night, I was talking to my funny girlfriend, Jackie. And we were talking about comedy and space exploration and going over our New Year's resolutions. And then we hugged and parted ways. 30 minutes later, I got a call, and I thought it was Jackie calling me that she had made it home safe. But no, it was my mother. My mother called and gave me devastating news. She said Jackie had been shot. I said, no, I just left her. She can't be shot. So I raced over to the hospital, right around the corner. And I walked into the emergency room. It was too late. She had been shot and killed by her sister accidentally. I cried. The grief overwhelmed me. It just overwhelmed me. But I couldn't stop thinking about the final words she said before we parted. She said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She said that over and over again. So that's when I had sort of like a midlife crisis. I'm like, Jackie's gone. But the words kept ringing in my head. I can do all things. So I decided to go to comedy school. I went to Second City, and I graduated from there. Because, comedy and laughter heals. Even the Pope knows that comedians can come to the Vatican. So it kept going on. NASA kept having applications. I kept applying, not getting accepted. And I just decided my ship has passed. But then it kept haunting me, this astronaut thing. So in 2020, I hired a business coach, Coach Kevin. Coach Kevin wasn't your usual business coach. He made you write out 300 things that you wanted to have, be, and do. So I wrote it out. And then he asked me, what do you really want? I said, I want 3 things. I want to perform at Carnegie Hall. I want to be a contestant on Dancing with the Stars. And I want to go to space. And he said, okay, I think the first thing you should do is go to space. Just like that. Like I could call Delta Airlines and get a one-way ticket to Mars. But the universe must have been listening to our conversation because shortly thereafter, there was a contest with SpaceX in St. Jude. I applied. Well, I didn't make that 4-person crew cut, but I did get a VIP all-expense-paid ticket to the launch of Inspiration 4, September 15th, 2021, and the launch went off at 8:02 p.m. without a hitch. And shortly thereafter, I got a call from Discovery Channel. They DM'd me on my Instagram account. They said, do you really want to be an astronaut? They said they had a contest. It's called Who Wants to Be an Astronaut? So I applied. And guess what? I'm a finalist. Yeah. The winner goes to the International Space Station for a 10-day trip, and I am not worried about being stranded at all. When I told my BFF that I applied, she said, girl, you are too old to be talking about going to space. Hater. Anyway, she's no longer my BFF, but she's still my daughter. So, I said, you know what? I'm not too old because if they can send 91-year-old William Shatner Captain Kirk to outer space. If they can send that old gas bag up there, anybody can go. Good thing they didn't let him drive, because he would have left the turn signal on the whole time. So I'm here at the process of, I'm the best person for Discovery Channel for who wants to be an astronaut. That's because I'm a physician, I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm a medical marijuana doctor. My research on the International Space Station will be to take hemp and figure out how that plant behaves in space so we can get a cure for cancer. Two, I'm STAR ready. STAR stands for Stellar Training for Astronaut Readiness. In 2024, I became STAR certified, and I'm ready to go climb a mountain and go live in a lava cave in Hawaii to prove that I am a STAR astronaut. And number three, I have advocacy work with the Planetary Society. I go to Washington every year with the Planetary Society, I got to talk to, and I speak to our Congress, about funding for space programs. And I go there with the planetary guy, the science guy, Bill Nye. So when I go to space, because I am, I know that I'm kind of losing it right now because I'm kind of spacey. When I go to space, because I know I am, I know my friends are going to say that Shelby-Lane is crazy. And my daughter's going to say, yeah, Mom, you're not going anywhere because you're too old. All right? But dreams don't have an expiration date. So I know I'm going. And while I'm chasing my star, I'm also doing a program for Black kids in space in Detroit. That's right, so they can know that they can dream too and they can reach for the stars. So I know I'm the best person for this job. I know I'm going to go because space exploration is not just about science, it's about understanding, it's about connecting, and it's about never giving up your dreams. So I'm going to go. The universe is waiting because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Thank you.
Dr. Cynthia Shelby-Lane.